Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're going to be tackling something pretty weighty.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Joseph Aminian's 12,100 nuclear warheads, uncovering the solution to humanity's greatest existential threat.
Wow.
Now, you might think with a title like that, we're in for a dry technical analysis.
Right.
But trust me, Aminian's approach is anything but typical.
Really?
He blends philosophy, history, biology, even throws in some humor
Interesting.
to explore this, well, let's face it, terrifying topic.
I mean, it's a pretty big one.
It is, yeah.
It is.
So it's like he's taken all these different lenses
Yeah.
and focused them on this one burning question.
Right.
Why do we, with all our intelligence and supposed advancement,
Right.
still find ourselves on the brink of self-destruction?
Exactly. And he starts off by framing this whole existential dilemma through the lens of the classic hero's journey. You know, that archetype we see in myths like the Epic of Gilgamesh, or even modern stories like Star Wars.
You know?
Yeah, okay, so we're all kind of on these heroes' journeys.
Yeah, in a way.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fascinating how he uses the biblical story of Adam and Eve to illustrate this.
Okay.
He sees the forbidden fruit as a representation of humanity's constant desire to reach beyond its grasp, to control forces that are ultimately beyond our control.
So it's like we're hardwired to chase knowledge and power.
Yeah.
But we often forget that nature, like that sly serpent in the Garden of Eden, operates on a whole different level.
Right. Operates by different rules.
Yeah.
And that's where things start to get really interesting.
Okay.
Aminian argues that we often forget about our own inner serpent, so to speak, those primal instincts that drive us on a subconscious level. He brings up the gut-brain connection, suggesting that our guts are more than just digestive organs.
Right.
They're deeply connected to our survival instincts.
So you're telling me there's a scientific basis for those gut feelings we get?
Absolutely. Think about it.
Yeah.
When you're anxious, you might feel those butterflies in your stomach.
Oh, yeah.
That's your gut reacting to a perceived threat.
Okay.
Aminian even describes the human spinal cord as resembling a snake, highlighting how deeply ingrained these primal responses are within us.
Okay, I'm starting to see where he's going with this.
Right.
We may have evolved these big complex brains, but underneath it all, we're still driven by those same ancient impulses.
We're still animals. And that's where the potential for disaster comes in.
Okay.
Because if we're not aware of those underlying instincts, if we let our inner serpent take the wheel, well, with the power of nuclear weapons at our fingertips, the consequences could be catastrophic.
He even goes so far as to suggest adding a new syndrome.
I know, right?
To the DSM-5, the diagnostic manual mental health professionals use. He calls it Schmeckelhead personality syndrome. I have to admit, when I first read that, I wasn't sure if he was being serious or not.
Well, there's definitely a touch of humor there.
Yeah.
But I think it's his way of highlighting a very real and dangerous tendency, particularly among men, towards recklessness and ego-driven decision-making.
Right.
And let's be honest, haven't we seen this play out time and time again throughout history?
Oh, absolutely. Think about those classic war movies.
Yes.
The generals puffing on cigars, making life or death decisions based on pride and a need to assert dominance.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And Aminian argues that this Schmeckelhead tendency, if left unchecked, is a recipe for disaster, especially in a world where a single wrong move could lead to nuclear annihilation.
Oh, yeah.
He even calls out Neil deGrasse Tyson and Barack Obama.
I know.
Two figures you wouldn't necessarily associate with this kind of recklessness as exhibiting traits of this syndrome.
Yeah, I know some people might find that controversial. But I think it's important to remember that he's not trying to demonize anyone.
Right.
He's using these examples to illustrate a larger point about human nature. That even the most intelligent or well-intentioned among us can fall prey to these primal urges.
It's like he's holding up a mirror to humanity. Forcing us to confront those uncomfortable truths about ourselves.
Right.
And that, I think, is where the real value of his essay lies.
Okay.
He's not just warning us about the dangers of nuclear war. He's asking us to look inward, to understand the roots of our self-destructive behavior, and to find a way to transcend those limitations.
So if our inner serpent is part of the problem, what's the solution? How do we tame that beast?
Well, that's where Aminian's exploration of the zodiac comes in.
The zodiac.
Yeah.
Now, before you think we've gone off the deep end into astrology, hear me out. He sees the zodiac as a metaphor for humanity's age-old quest for self-understanding. So like how in ancient times people looked to the stars to make sense of their place in the universe.
It was their way of diagnosing themselves,
Right.
of trying to understand the forces at play in their lives and in the world around them.
Right.
And Aminian suggests that we need to reclaim that kind of self-reflection, that willingness to look beyond the surface and confront our inner demons.
And it's interesting how he connects this to the concept of interoception.
Yes.
Which is basically our ability to sense our internal state.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He argues that by becoming more aware of our bodily sensations, our emotions, and our thoughts, we can gain a deeper understanding of those primal urges that drive us.
It's like we need to learn to listen to our gut feelings in a more mindful way.
Yeah.
Not to let them control us.
Right, yeah.
But to understand what they're trying to tell us.
Exactly.
Yeah, and maybe, just maybe, that heightened awareness can help us make more conscious choices.
Right.
Choices that lead us away from the brink of self-destruction.
Right. It's about finding that balance between our primal instincts and our higher selves. Yeah. Recognizing that both are part of who we are, but that one left unchecked could lead us down a very dangerous path.
This is all incredibly fascinating.
It is.
But I think we need to take a moment to let all of this sink in.
Okay.
We've covered a lot of ground, but there's still so much more to explore.
Yeah.
We'll be back in a moment to dive even deeper into Aminian's ideas and see where this journey of self-discovery takes us.
Sounds good.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've established that we all have this inner serpent, so to speak, these primal urges that can sometimes drive us to make, shall we say, not so great decisions. But how does Aminian suggest we actually start to tame this beast?
Well,
he can't expect us all to become Zen masters overnight, right?
Right, and he acknowledges that this is a process, a journey of self-discovery that requires a willingness to confront our own darkness. And he even uses his own writing process as a metaphor for this. He talks about how he intentionally introduces what he calls cognitive dissonances in his writing.
So those moments where he throws in something that makes you stop and go.
Exactly.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
Like a sudden shift in perspective that challenges your assumptions.
Exactly. He says that these cognitive dissonances force the reader to actively engage with the material, to question what they believe and why. And he doesn't shy away from the fact that this can be uncomfortable. He even describes experiencing physical discomfort, like indigestion and muscle spasms. When he's working through these challenging ideas.
Wow. So it's like his body is literally reacting to the mental struggle of confronting these uncomfortable truths.
Precisely. And I think that's a brilliant way to illustrate the connection between our physical and mental states. He's basically saying that this process of self-reflection, of challenging our deeply held beliefs, can be a visceral experience. It's not just an intellectual exercise. It's about facing those shattered hearts of ourselves that we often try to ignore.
And I think that's where his discussion of Schmeckelhead personality syndrome becomes so important. It's not just a funny term. It's a way of shining a light on those tendencies within ourselves that can lead us down a dangerous path.
He's not saying that all men are reckless or ego-driven, but rather that these tendencies exist within all of us to varying degrees. And the danger lies in not recognizing them, in allowing them to control our actions without even realizing it.
And remember how he called out Neil deGrasse Tyson and Barack Obama as examples of this?
Oh, yeah.
That definitely raised some eyebrows.
It did. But again, I think it was his way of showing that even brilliant minds or powerful figures can fall prey to these primal urges. He criticizes Tyson for boasting about kicking Pluto out of the solar system and Obama for his kill list, essentially arguing that both actions stem from a similar place of ego and a dangerous belief in one's own power.
So it's not about pointing fingers or judging individuals. It's about recognizing that these tendencies exist within all of us. And that we need to be vigilant about keeping them in check, especially when the stakes are so high.
And he's not just talking about the threat of nuclear war, but also about the more everyday ways that this Schmeckelhead tendency can manifest. Think about road rage or online trolling or even just that stubborn refusal to admit when we're wrong. It's all stemming from that same primal place of ego and a need to assert dominance.
Okay, so we've identified the problem, but what's the solution? How do we actually start to shift our perspective
Yeah.
and tame that inner serpent?
Well, Aminian offers a few key antidotes.
Okay.
He emphasizes the importance of humility, gratitude, and a deep sense of responsibility to our families and future generations.
Okay.
He even shares this personal mantra,
Okay.
I am nothing. I know nothing. I am insignificant in the grand scheme of creation.
Wow, that's a pretty powerful statement.
Yeah.
It's almost like a Zen koan.
Yeah.
Something designed to short-circuit the ego and force us to confront the vastness of existence.
Exactly. It's about recognizing our place in the grand scheme of things.
Right.
Accepting that we are not the center of the universe. And that our individual desires and ambitions are ultimately insignificant in the face of eternity.
And from that place of humility,
yes,
he suggests we can begin to cultivate a deeper sense of gratitude for the gift of life and a profound responsibility for safeguarding it, not just for ourselves, but for generations to come.
Right.
Which brings us back to his emphasis on family right.
Yes. He sees family as the bedrock of a healthy society, the foundation upon which everything else is built. And he's not just talking about the traditional nuclear family,
right,
but about the broader network of relationships that connect us to one another.
So like our extended family, our friends, our neighbors, even our fellow citizens.
Exactly. He places family at the center of his solution, emphasizing a very specific sequence. Mother, father, wife, children, grandchildren, and future descendants.
Wow.
And then he expands that circle outward to include siblings, in-laws, extended family, and finally the communities and societies we live in.
Right.
It's like he's drawing a map of our interconnectedness,
I love that.
Reminding us that our actions have ripple effects that extend far beyond our immediate selves.
It's like that old saying, it takes a village to raise a child.
Exactly.
But Aminian is taking it even further and saying it takes a village and a family and a whole lot of humility to prevent us from destroying ourselves.
Right. And by acknowledging those connections, by honoring the responsibility we have to those who came before us and those who will come after us, we can tap into a deeper well of wisdom and resilience. The kind of wisdom that might just save us from ourselves.
So we're not just talking about individual self-improvement here.
No.
We're talking about a fundamental shift in consciousness.
Yes.
A recognition that we are all interconnected.
Right.
And that our actions have consequences that ripple out across generations.
Exactly. And this is where Aminian's ideas really start to resonate with me. Because it's not enough to just talk about the dangers of nuclear war or the destructive potential of our egos. We need to offer a positive vision, a path forward, a way to transcend those limitations and create a more peaceful and sustainable future.
And he's suggesting that the key to that future lies not in technological advancements or political maneuvering, but in a fundamental shift in our values. A return to the wisdom of our ancestors, and a renewed focus on the importance of family and community.
It's a radical idea.
It is.
But I think it's one worth exploring. After all, if we can't find a way to get along with each other, what hope is there for humanity?
Okay, we've covered a lot of ground here.
We have.
And I think we need to take another pause to let all of this really sink in. But before we do, I'm curious, what are you personally left pondering? What questions or insights are swirling around in your mind after this deep dive into Aminian's essay? You know, it's interesting how Aminian manages to weave together all these seemingly disparate threads. Ancient myths, modern psychology, even a bit of astrology.
It's quite a mix.
To create this really compelling narrative about the human condition.
Yeah, what strikes me is how he manages to take this incredibly heavy topic, the threat of nuclear war, and make it feel deeply personal. It's not just about geopolitics or weapons technology. It's about understanding ourselves, our motivations, our deepest fears and desires.
And I think that's what makes his solution so intriguing. He's not proposing some grand political strategy or technological fix. He's suggesting that the answer lies within each of us.
He's calling for a revolution,
Okay.
Not a political one, but a revolution of consciousness.
Right.
A shift in values.
Yeah.
A reordering of priorities.
Yeah.
A recognition that our interconnectedness is not just some abstract concept, but a lived reality with profound implications for how we choose to live our lives.
It's almost like he's turning the whole hero myth on its head, instead of seeking glory and dominance.
Right.
The real hero's journey is about embracing humility and recognizing our interconnectedness.
It's about understanding that true strength lies not in our ability to control and dominate the world around us, but in our capacity for compassion, empathy, and a deep sense of responsibility for the well-being of all beings.
And that this acceptance, this letting go of the ego, is not a sign of weakness, but a source of profound strength and wisdom.
Exactly. And it's from this place of humility and gratitude that we can start to make more conscious, responsible choices. Not just for ourselves, but for the well-being of our families, our communities, and the planet as a whole.
So, if we were to distill all of this down to a single takeaway, what would it be? What's the one thing you hope our listener will walk away from this deep dive pondering?
I think it would be this.
Yeah.
What are your personal forbidden fruits?
Ooh.
What are those things in your life that you might be tempted to control or manipulate, when in reality accepting limitations might be the wiser path?
That's a good one. It challenges us to examine our own motivations, to be honest with ourselves about where our egos might be leading us astray.
Right.
Are we chasing after things that ultimately don't matter? Are we holding on to grudges that are only poisoning us? Are we trying to force outcomes that are simply not meant to be?
And it reminds us that sometimes the most heroic act is simply to let go.
Yeah.
To surrender to the flow of life.
Okay.
And to trust that even in our insignificance, we're part of something much greater than ourselves.
I think that's a beautiful and profound thought to leave you with.
I hope so.
If you're intrigued by Aminian's ideas and want to explore them further, we highly encourage you to seek out his full essay.
Definitely.
It's a challenging but ultimately rewarding read.
Yes.
Packed with insights that might just shift your perspective on the world and your place in it.
Yeah.
It really got us thinking.
It did.
And who knows, it might even inspire you to embark on your own hero's journey. One that leads not to conquest and glory, but to humility, gratitude, and a deeper understanding of what truly matters in life.
Absolutely.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
It was a pleasure.
We'll catch you next time.